You know what's absolutely brilliant? Taking someone at their lowest point, someone who's genuinely broken, someone who's literally screaming for help into the void of the internet and turning their suffering into your personal ATM machine. That's not therapy. That's not psychology. That's vulturing in a business casual shirt with a ring light and a condescending smile. These so-called social media therapists and psychologists have mastered the art of performative empathy, and it's genuinely one of the most pathetic grifts of our generation. They've weaponized human vulnerability. They've turned real pain, actual, legitimate psychological suffering into engagement metrics and brand partnerships. Someone's having a panic attack? Monetize it. Someone's dealing with trauma? Film it for your TikTok. Someone's suicidal? Don't call emergency services. Call your editor first, because this is content gold, baby. The setup is always the same. You've got this person, usually young, usually broke, usually desperate, and they're watching these content creators with thousands of followers, and the message being transmitted is crystal clear. If you perform your mental illness correctly, if you cry the right way, if your trauma is picturesque enough, you too can be famous and wealthy. Except you won't be, because you're not the product. You're the raw material. Your pain is literally being mined like coal, and these therapists are the mining companies getting filthy rich while you're still in the pit. And here's the thing that really gets me. They've got credentials. Some of them. A master's degree from an online university that you can buy a diploma from faster than you can order pizza. A certification from a weekend seminar that probably costs less than their first brand deal. And suddenly they're armed with just enough legitimate psychological terminology to sound credible while being absolutely dangerous. They'll use real concepts, attachment styles, trauma responses, anxiety triggers, but strip them of all nuance, all real therapeutic framework, all actual human depth, and package them into 6 0-second videos that make you think you understand your own mind better when you actually understand it less. The audience doesn't realize they're being groomed. That's the sickest part. These creators are literally grooming vulnerable people into dependency. You start watching one video, and YouTube recommends 20 more, and suddenly you're checking their profile every morning like it's your medication. And that's intentional. That's the business model. They need you addicted. They need you coming back. They need you leaving comments and sharing their content, because that's what feeds the algorithm, and that's what keeps the sponsorship deals flowing from BetterHelp, from meditation apps, from supplements, from whatever quick fix garbage they're hawking this week. Real therapy is boring. Real therapy doesn't have jump cuts or trending audio. Real therapy requires you to sit with discomfort. Real therapy is about slow, painful, unglamorous growth over months and years. Real therapy happens behind closed doors with someone bound by actual legal and ethical obligations. But that doesn't get views. That doesn't get brand deals. That doesn't make you a micro celebrity. So instead, these people are creating psychological theater, and they're casting broken people as the stars of their own tragic narratives. The worst part is the abuse of trust. Someone reaches out in the comments, genuinely asking for help, genuinely vulnerable, and what happens? They get a response from the creator or one of their moderators that's supposed to feel like personal connection, but is actually the most hollow, automated, mass-produced pseudo-support imaginable. It feels like they're being seen, but they're not. They're being cataloged, their data points, their engagement metrics. The creator will never actually help them, because their job isn't to help people, it's to film people who look like they need help. And people wonder why actual therapy is becoming harder to access. Real therapists are drowning in demand while people are getting their mental health guidance from Instagram. Real mental health professionals are bound by ethics boards and regulations and have to actually take responsibility for outcomes, while these content creators can say literally anything with zero accountability. Someone takes their advice, makes things worse, doesn't seek real help, and the creator just keeps posting their next 6 0-second hot take on anxiety because that person's failure isn't their problem. It's just the next video in their content calendar. The psychology community is absolutely fractured trying to address this. Legitimate psychologists are watching their entire discipline get hijacked by people who barely understand the basics, and the average person can't tell the difference anymore. If it sounds smart and it's coming from someone with a lot of followers, it must be true, right? Wrong. But good luck convincing someone of that when they've already been systematically conditioned to trust content creators more than actual authority figures. These fake therapists have also created this entire subculture where having a mental health crisis is basically a personality trait, a currency, a way to be interesting. So people are performing their illnesses more, exaggerating symptoms, creating narratives around their trauma, because that's what gets engagement. They're competing to have the most relatable anxiety or the most profound depression. And in the process, actual mental health has become a content category, like mukbangs or ASMR. And don't even get me started on the predatory dynamics. The power imbalance between creator and audience, especially when the audience is young and vulnerable, is staggering. Someone's putting out content that feels like personal advice directed at you, and your brain literally can't process that it's being broadcast to millions of people simultaneously. Your parasocial brain is like, this person knows me, this person cares about me, and they're capitalizing on that cognitive glitch to build an audience and secure sponsors. The money side is absolutely insane too. You've got people making 6 figures a year, sometimes 7 figures, by basically just trauma dumping and calling it education. Meanwhile, actual therapists working in clinics are making what amounts to minimum wage for graduate degrees and years of training. The market has completely inverted. The people providing actual value are being underpaid, while the people commodifying human suffering are buying houses. That's not an accident. That's the system working exactly as designed by these creators and the platforms that enable them. Here's what really kills me. Some of these people probably started with good intentions. Maybe they genuinely thought they could help people using social media. But the moment they realized the algorithm rewards emotional intensity, the moment they saw the watch time spike when they cried on camera, the moment they got their first sponsorship deal, the intention became irrelevant. The incentive structure took over. Now they're trapped in a system where they have to keep escalating emotional content just to maintain their position, and their audience gets more and more dependent on consuming that content instead of actually seeking real help. The broken people they're supposedly helping, they're the ones paying the real price. They're the ones who watch these videos instead of calling a real therapist. They're the ones who spend their limited money on apps and supplements instead of actual healthcare. They're the ones who feel connection to someone who doesn't even know they exist. They're the ones whose problems get worse because they're getting advice from someone with a business incentive to keep them broken enough to stay engaged, but not so broken that they actually harm themselves because that's bad for brand partnership. And when someone inevitably has a crisis after following the advice of one of these creators, there's no recourse. There's no malpractice suit. There's no disciplinary board. There's just a deleted comment and the creator moving on to the next content day. Meanwhile, the person who took the advice is dealing with the actual consequences of following psychological guidance from someone whose only qualification is being good at editing and understanding the YouTube algorithm. The saddest part is that people genuinely need help. The mental health crisis is real. Anxiety is skyrocketing. Depression is epidemic. Loneliness is destroying people. And instead of getting access to actual help, vulnerable people are being funneled into a system that profits from their continued suffering. They're not healing. They're not getting better. They're just watching someone else get rich from their pain while they remain exactly where they started, broken, desperate, and now conditioned to think that parasocial relationships with content creators is an acceptable substitute for real human connection and actual professional help. So yeah, that's the industry. That's the grift. That's what social media therapy really is. When you strip away the nice graphics and the motivational quotes and the carefully curated aesthetics, it's exploitation dressed up as empowerment. It's predation disguised as education. It's people with minimal qualifications building careers on the backs of the most vulnerable members of society, and our entire culture is celebrating them for it. That's not science. That's not psychology. That's just cruelty with better lighting.